Hello there, welcome. Day 197, 365 days towards racial change. My name is Tomlinson Nyback, and we're here talking about black issues in America, how perceptions, economics, politics, you name it. I mean, it's the human experience, but it's black and it lives in America. Um, there's challenges within and without that go along with being black in America. I see the country lately going into a dark time. So, next day or two, we're going to have story time, I promise you. But I need to, we've been disciplined and stuff for a couple days. And there's some things going on in news cycles that I want to be pay attention to, give honor to, because as we reference a lot of material and things like that, but we need to see and understand how it bears out in today's world, in today's climate, how it touches us today. We're not just talking about ancient Greece or maybe the history of Shaka Zulu, something so far away and abstract. We need to connect the dots on where we were then, especially, mid late 1400s up to now. We got to take a look at 550, 600 years of an institution, of a mindset. These things, uh, as far as uh, a timeline of humanity, that these are pretty recent events that still today, right? Just look at your news cycle today. This is July 16th, 2019, I'm sorry. 2017 was a bad year for me. Whew. But we're beyond that. But again, these issues we talk about bear on these. Never think, in my opinion, never think that when you've been denied, when you've had favor, when you've had success, that your race, color, age, like those things had no impact. That this world, that there are people and agencies in this world that can be so objective that it can make you just throw up. They're just so objective. People want to make you believe that. I try to be like that, but someone's sex, skin color, age, um, mannerisms, that's going to impact my decision on how I interact with that individual or group. No one's immune from that. I feel like I have more courage to name it and be honest about it. The mind of America. What's the condition, attitude, orientation of the black mind? Today we're going to talk about some issues, and I'm concerned about the black mind just being so passive, so malleable. Oh boy, somebody says something. Like, I'm going through this thing. I'm running into a lot of these issues in the world, and I'm finally exercising some restraint, patience, and wisdom, and I'm just seeing how it bears out instead of storming off like the angry black man with attitude. 'Cause that's what happens. I'm sure that's what's left in the wake when I leave a space. But now I'm staying in spaces where there's conflict. I've finally grown to a point. But I'll tell you this one thing. I live like in this recovery, sober community. and that's a whole nother story. Simple one, but an obvious story. Uh, but I went through the process of having my bike chained to their public space outside there. And like I expect in places like this, they cut the chain and said, and they say the bike was not registered. When I filled out the paperwork and stuff, they're supposed to give me a receipt, and I trusted the system to give me a receipt. So anyway, the bike got taken away. Nice bike too. A friend gave it to me. So now the story goes on. Well, I'll bring you up to date. I've hinted at this in the past. I got a new caseworker, so she's going to champion getting me a bike so I can ride and exercise and stuff like that. Now, me, I already made up my mind because I know I've been in these places long enough. The dysfunction in drug rehab places is profound, and that's an understatement. And so I made up my mind, get my own bike. I'm in my own space. I'm just going to keep my bike up here. But she came on the scene, heard my story, and she's going to be a champion. And she's like, "We'll make it happen." So first, she comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, I can give you a voucher and all this stuff, right?" And I'm like, "Well, that's probably not going to happen." So I came back to her later, a couple days later, and she's like, "Well, you can go to this bike shop and volunteer because that's where they send all the bikes, you know." And the point is like what I'm trying to get around to as far as staying in the fight is like, you know, and being aware is in this case with the bike, uh, how power is like, we made the mistake, we cut your lock, we made the miscommunication, we didn't check in with you, we were not accountable, but you, Tomlins, Nyback, you got to go to work to get a bike back. And they want me to walk to this place and do all this stuff. I'm like, nah. And in the past, I've said, oh boy, they messed up. I'm going to be understanding of all, and well, I'll be the bigger guy. No. You make a mistake in my life, you're going to be held accountable, and you need to do reparations for it because that's what I would do, and that's what I've done. You see the difference? You know, they want to trade emails and stuff and send the black man out to mess up their mistake concerning his interest. That's the essence of what some of the things we see here in America. You know, oh, we enslaved you. We've done economic destruction against you and all kinds of stuff. You know, but it's your job to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get it together. You know, you got when you approach the system and the bureaucracy, you got to go through all kinds of hoops and hurdles, and on and on and on. You know, that's not going to change much in the near future. But are black people aware of how this works? You know, do they even question? You know, you white folks, white power, have executed this destruction, this agenda against black people, and now you say to fix it, you got to put us to work. See, and what I said a couple days ago is how black people are in the wake. You know, white people, white power forges ahead. They're tip of the spear, always in front out there, and it is not about competency or anything. I'll take you to my workplace. I'll show you the bunch of the dumbest white asses But I'm just watching. I'm observing. The universe is telling me to observe, stay quiet, and observe. Now that the bell has rung, but we're in the wake because they're at the tip of the spear and all that. You know, doesn't mean they're better. It means they have guns, atom bombs, and violence. That put them there. Conversely, the white mind, privilege, power, expectation of favor. How it just goes on and on and on. You know, I don't necessarily want them, right, to open up their storehouses and suddenly have a change of heart and have some agenda where they're pouring out their resources on us like rain. What I want is there to be fairness, evenness, you know, um, fair competition in the American landscape, and that's not happening. Today's post is going to be further about that and why that is. Financial literacy, still financial literacy. It's been a while since we've done some financial literacy, but just know that there are if you just believe there are very powerful forces, people, and entities on the earth playing both sides, whatever side can win, and that don't have a lot of moral restraint on gain, on profit, on exploitation. You know, no, see now that I have some financial literacy, I can resist at least to some degree their attack on my wallet. They're usurpers. They are ghosts and spirits. I know I'm probably talking way over um, a lot, but you know, our money isn't even real. Pull out a dollar bill. So, do you know how much debt? It's a debt driven uh, piece of paper that you got, and it's these guys that are cleverly moving around numbers and stuff. And there's no backing. Maybe at one time a dollar had some silver or gold behind it. We don't do that anymore. You know, think if you Google Nixon taking us off the gold standard, and boy, that just blows the doors off of finance, making the sky essentially the limit. But it's a derived limit. It's created. It has nothing supports it. And it's nothing new. What Nixon did in the 70s, it wasn't even new. Uh, I'm reading a book. You got to read a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And this is a cyclical thing that's been happening, well, for a long time, even in other ancient civilizations as well. And it causes problems. Financial literacy, that's some of the high science of it. But I want black people to be careful to understand how their dollars work, at least. You know, education, awareness can give us some ammunition uh, against frivolous spending, you know, about holding on to more of our disposable free dollars after taxes and bills. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson, a Black History reader. 101 questions you never thought to ask. Black labor, white wealth. Search for Power and Economic Justice and Powernomics, Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. And before we do that, see behind me, hashtag us too. You'll find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you see hashtag us too symbol. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF for Black Facebook kind of experience. If you can't find your flavor on the World Wide Web, out of all these millions of sites and searches, do what I did, start your own, and see what happens. I got a private email list, a little group going, and we're just trudging along. And finally, we have story time. We're gonna have story time in a couple days. Like I said, I got to vent. I got to address some of these current events right now. But we will have story time. Uncle Tom's Cabin. All right, today, day 197, was the new N-word is here, and it's entrenched. It's going through a cycle, and I want us to critique it, think about how the new N-word is being used to further, well, I shouldn't say further. Look, the disadvantages, disparities, separations that exist between black and white folks hasn't changed, has never changed. Uh, you know, we were slaves, and there's a permanent gap between black and white folks. And it's black folks that have to, unfortunately, do the energy. White folks ain't gonna come back and try to make it all one big happy party. I don't care, what the predominantly white news media tries to make me think. Everybody's always trying to be on the moral right side. So it's disgusting to see them posture. You know, um, they don't fool me at all. Anyway, the reporters, they're so privileged to be the ones presenting information and media, as though they are the keepers of what's morally right in America. That's a big joke. So I won't go into that. That's not what today's post is about. The new N-word, it keeps the status quo, like I was just saying, between blacks and whites in America. It keeps us being victims of attrition, and it keeps whites prospering and growing, breeding like rabbits, having stable families, communities, securities, and things like that. They only seem to come out when there's a need, great need, and then the racial barriers quickly disintegrate, and suddenly everybody's in fellowship and can get along quite well. The new N-word, a new N-word and phrase, it keeps the whites comfortably situated in control in America's social, political, economic structure, firmly in place, frozen in place, in being successful and keeping black folks disadvantaged and non-competitive. Keeps us, we're going through a news cycle, and the president and some women of Congress and things like that. But it keeps our wheels spinning, distracted, right? This is the impact of the new N-word. I want you to remember how part of what facilitated the institution of white people owning black people, made it commonplace, was the dehumanization of black people, how it kept, it made it just easier. You know, we read in Uncle Tom's Cabin, St. Clair's father thought black people were kind of a missing link between farm animals and white people, right? Some kind of mutation that will be stopped evolving at some point. you know, if you look at evolution, some of the models is a tree and its species are offshoot from the trunk, and land with wings and scales, breathe water and stuff like that. So black people, it kind of came up and they kind of offshoot, but white people just were straight up, right? That's the idea. Dehumanization allowed medical experiments on women without anesthetic on their most intimate parts of their bodies. Dehumanization um, it made beatings, rape, uh, a matter of course. If you remember, if you ever watched the movie Gladiator, interesting enough, the black man says to Gladiator, he says, well, they're eating a meal. He's afraid to be poisoned, and they're joking about it. And the black man says, "Look, he's got to kill your name before he can kill you." The emperor has lethal designs against the gladiator, and and that's true. You can't. As long as black people are animals, um, undisciplined, and any kind of negative, pejorative term you can think of against black people, then it's easier to shoot black men in the back. Then it's easier to incarcerate. Then it's easier to be overly violent against them for minor, benign, innocuous infractions because they're dehumanized. They're bugs. One guy thought, one of the founding fathers thought the black skin was a kind of leprosy. And he performed experiments and tried to treat it. You know, I can just imagine him skinning people alive, thinking, just tear it off maybe. By inch, you're killing a person by inches. So this new N word dehumanizes. The new N word dilutes. We got it dilutes because it includes so many other groups that black people are no longer singular. They're no longer noticeable. They're no longer unique in the crowd, so to speak. What it's very very discouraging to see how this new N word is crippling us. And there have been many new N words, right? So many new N words all through history. So the N word is used outright. Still actually in some parts of the country, but just overtly, of course, for centuries. But then, as our sensitivity and our education got better, we started to steer away, and we started to use other words for the N words, for the N word, and the N word. It's still around, still has its pejorative meaning and stuff like that. It's try. There's an attempt to reclaim it. I don't listen to much rap music. It seems that from little bits and pieces I hear lately, it's really gotten away from us. But the reclaimed N word, nigga, through rap music, that's kind of died out a little bit. Because black people, I think, they just said it too much in rap music, which I don't listen to anyway. I don't like rap music at all. But it dilutes um, the new N word and N words through history. Dilute, it makes black people, their experience, just another experience. You got white experience, and then everybody else. You know, that's what the new N word is doing. And because it's everybody else, let's say blacks represent 1/5 of everybody else. Well, these, instead of the black folks sticking out and being unique and special and a group of people that have survived centuries and ongoing marginalization, now the new N word makes us a part of this big group, and groups that have no connection with slavery, with centuries of oppression. Oh, just come on board, and they bury us. They bury us with their concerns and their push to um, participate in American structure. You know, the new N word lets white people off the, any word but black people. You notice they don't use black people. I don't see black people much in history books or anything. They don't name. They're not explicit with black people. They shy away from the black people. I'm a black person, and I've resolved today, as writing this post, I'm not the new N word or anything like that. Be careful of the new N word, and the new N word is people of color. Oh, the people of color. Doesn't that sound so nice and flowery? The people of color, they have a bad day once in a while. They're not connected. The people of color aren't connected to centuries of slavery, kidnapping, family separation. But they're people of color. Like the LGBTQ rainbow. You know, this is such a happy phrase. You know, like the rainbow. Really, I'm glad the LGBTQ community. I know I have friends. Uh, but um, does it bring to light? Like I think his name's Matthew Shepard. The Shepard gentleman beaten to death, tied to a fence. Uh, Stonewall riots. Right? It's a rainbow. Oh, it's such a nice flowery existence for the LGBTQ. But there's people of color. Oh, boy, how you know they're a lesser human and all that. But see, what happens is black people get thrown into that pot, into the melting pot, right? It's a melting pot. It's white people, and then there's a melting pot. I haven't heard melting pot in a long time, huh? But that's the new N word. People of color, minorities. That's something Dr. Anderson's trying to get through to us, and we got to keep coming at it at different angles because you don't believe that there's a difference, right? And you believe that when they're talking about people of color, that they're talking about black people. No, they're putting us in a big old pot and stirring it up together, right? Um, People of color. That's the new N word. Oh boy, it makes my skin crawl. I get an emotional response when I hear people just say people of color, and it just passes over. It lets white people off the hook. White people have found a new substitute for the N word. You know, well, you're a person of color. You're other than white. White is better. White is in control. White has the power. White has privilege. You're a person of color. Take it easy. You're a person of color. Take it easy. We'll get to you. The new N word. Day 197. 365 days towards racial change. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. Come and join me tomorrow. Let's see what kind of trouble we can stir up. Bye bye.